Remember how exciting it was back in December? New Speaker Paul Ryan ended congressional gridlock as a huge bipartisan agreement is forged on a 5-year transportation bill that'll boost spending on roads, bridges, and trains. Well, small problem. Roughly half of that historic deal was unfunded. That's despite unusual support for a gas tax hike from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, AAA, and truckers. The levy, which hadn't been raised in 2 decades, remained untouched, leaving a yawning gap between what the Highway Trust Fund would have and how much it would need to pay for long-ignored infrastructure work. In that spirit, another bipartisan effort broke the perpetual Capitol Hill logjam in the House this past week. Led by the Massachusetts delegation, 18 opiate-focused bills passed the House, including one which would create a task force that would update standards for doctors who prescribe painkillers, that's co-sponsored by Congressman Joe Kennedy, and one which would ensure care for infants born to opioid-addicted mothers after they leave the hospital, that was sponsored by Congresswoman Catherine Clark. That's the good news. The bad? That's right, no money at all. Here's Congressman Jim McGovern. We need to not only pass these bills, but to commit in a bipartisan way to provide the necessary funding. If we don't do that, all the speeches we give this week will amount to empty rhetoric, which is exactly what they amounted to. Democrats proposed $600 million to pay for the House measures. It ended without a nickel in funding. The president has sought more than $1 billion. And not to be outdone, the Senate voted in March by a 94-1 margin to pass something called the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, giving the Attorney General power to provide transportation grants to state and local governments and nonprofits. Congress authorized $750 million for the infrastructure initiatives, but not a dollar in actual funding was approved. Not a dollar. You see a pattern here? Engage in rare bipartisan agreement, congratulate yourself, then don't provide any money to fund the thing you just celebrated. Here's an idea. Rather than authorize $1 billion to fight opiate abuse, if you're not going to provide any funding, why not authorize $1 trillion? You know, so many in Congress double as snake oil salesmen, but we will not be hoodwinked. In fact, on this one, President George W. Bush, he speaks for me.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
How true that is, Mr. President. What do you think? Email us, tweet us, share your thoughts.